Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News Programme live from Algiers. I'm your host, Kunfa Zachary, in our news tonight. Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune slams fabricated France row, calling it political chaos, while Algeria's parliament moves to criminalize colonialism as protests against the far right erupt across France. Coming up next, Gaza still under fire. Over 30 martyred in new strikes and tens of thousands trapped in Rafah. Officials warn of a deepening humanitarian disaster. Also in our news, big push for protests in Morocco. Calls grow to march against corruption and demand freedoms as anti-normalization rallies face heavy crackdown. And truce talks kick off in Saudi Arabia. Trump calls talks with Russia very rational, while Moscow says they've been frank and constructive. This and more shortly. Hello again and welcome back to our program. First off in our news, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune is pushing back, calling the recent tensions with France nothing but a storm in a teacup. He dismissed the controversy as a manufactured noise and political theatrics. Speaking in his latest sit-down interview aired Saturday night, President Abdelmadjid Tebboune didn't mince any words. He made it quite clear, when it comes to Algeria's ties with France, the buck stops with Emmanuel Macron. The president pointed to his top diplomat, Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf, as the one steering the course, but emphasized that any real breakthrough hinges on action from the French side.
Je dirais trois mots pour ne pas tomber dans ce brouhaha, ce capharnaüm politique qu'il y a actuellement là-bas. Nous, on garde comme point de repère, et unique point de repère pour moi, c'est le président Macron. On travaille ensemble. Il y a eu, c'est vrai, un moment d'incompréhension. Mais il reste le président de la République française, le président de la Ve République. Et personnellement, tous les problèmes doivent se régler avec lui ou avec la personne qu'il délègue à juste titre, dont c'est les prérogatives, à savoir les ministres des Affaires étrangères, Sinon, pour le reste, moi, en ce qui me concerne, le dossier, contentieux créé de toutes pièces avec la France, il est entre de bonnes mains, il est entre les mains de quelqu'un de très compétent, qui a toute ma confiance, c'est le ministre des Affaires étrangères. C'est tout. Tout ce que je peux vous dire dans ce sujet-là. C'est deux États indépendants, une puissance européenne, une puissance africaine, les deux présidents travaillent ensemble. C'est tout. Tout le reste ne nous concerne pas.
On the same occasion, and as for the recent visits by French officials to the occupied Sahrawi territories, President Abdelmadjid Tebboune played down the controversy, saying the visits themselves weren't the real provocation. Instead, he pointed the finger at something quite deeper, France's backing of Morocco's autonomy plan. That, he said, is the real flashpoint straining ties between Algiers and Paris.
Nous savons, nous ne sommes pas dupes. Et les Français savent que nous savons. L'histoire de l'autonomie, elle est française. Avant d'être défendue par nos voisins de l'Ouest. La France n'a jamais caché son amitié avec le Maroc. Et ça ne nous dérangeait pas du tout. Et jusqu'à présent, ça ne nous dérange pas du tout, contrairement à tout ce qui se dit. La France et le Maroc, même avant notre indépendance, s'entendaient très bien. Et jusqu'à présent, grand bien leur face. Et ça ne nous dérange pas, et nous ne réclamons pas d'un contentieux quelconque contre les deux pays. On sait que dans le dossier du Sahara occidental, la France a toujours été du côté du Maroc. Ça, ils l'ont toujours dit, ils l'ont toujours fait. Mais pourquoi des visites aussi, de manière aussi... Ça dérange la légalité internationale, ça dérange l'ONU, dont la France est membre permanent du Conseil de sécurité, et le dossier est toujours entre les mains de l'ONU. C'est tout.
Still with Algeria-related news, a major move out of Algeria's parliament this time. Speaker of the People's National Assembly, Ibrahim Ghali, says lawmakers have officially kicked off the first steps to criminalize colonialism. Speaking during a solemn ceremony marking the martyrdom of journalist and lawyer Ali Boumengel, Ghali unveiled the formation of a special committee tasked with drafting a new law that would formally criminalize colonial practices. The initiative, backed by representatives from all parliamentary blocs, is being hailed as a unified response. Quite a tribute to Algeria's long arc of resistance from the early uprisings to the glorious liberation war.
I hereby officially announce the establishment of a special committee tasked with a drafting bill to criminalize colonization. This committee will include representatives from all parliamentary groups. Its creation reflects the broad consensus shared across all political currents on this matter, and it stands as a tribute to the memory of our illustrious forebears. From the era of early resistance to the generation of glorious liberation revolution, the committee will be provided with all the resources necessary to fulfill its mission. It will also have the access to a wide range of expertise, drawing on the knowledge of scholars, legal experts, and jurists who specialize in historical memory and the crimes committed against Algeria, its people, and its heritage during the period from 1830 to 1962.
Moving on to the European continent now, tens of thousands took to the streets across France on Saturday, raising their voices against racism and the rising tide of far-right influence. From Paris to Marseille, demonstrators marched in force, accusing François Bayrou's government of veering dangerously close to far-right rhetoric and hardline immigration policies. More with Islam Sid in this report.
These are powerful images of widespread popular discontent sweeping across France, a country witnessing growing anger over the rise of the far right and its increasingly divisive rhetoric. In several major cities, tens of thousands of demonstrators took to the streets, warning that the far right poses a serious threat to France's values and social cohesion.
There is an incomprehensible rise in populism, and it's not a natural way to talk about people, about Islam, about religion. It's always the same narrative, targeting the same communities. For me, it's reminiscent of the period before the Second World War. It may be words today, but they echo the same dangerous discourse we've heard in history.
Many protesters say the current political atmosphere in France is becoming increasingly toxic, fueled by far-right rhetoric that fans the flames of hatred and exclusion. The growing influence of this political current has sparked serious concern, with critics accusing the government of yielding to far-right ideas, deepening social fractures, especially around immigration and equal rights. The economic context has only made things worse. With soaring unemployment and persistent inflation, frustration is mounting among large segments of the population.
We need to rethink our policies and take a broader view. France needs immigrants. We've always needed them to build this country. There was a time we brought in migrants to help rebuild France. And now we want to kick them out just because it bothers some people? No, that's not right. We need everyone in France.
French political parties and labor unions have also sounded the alarm over the far-right's growing sway, warning that several ministers have begun adopting hardline stances that echo far-right talking points, even at the expense of national interests. They're now calling for a shift toward more rational, inclusive policies that can address today's complex challenges without fueling division. But with deepening social unrest and widening economic hardship, analysts warn that tensions in France are unlikely to ease anytime soon, especially as the far right continues to push its agenda onto the national stage.
Still with Europe-related news, President of the Republic, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, struck a positive note, welcoming the renewed momentum in Algeria's relations with Spain. In his latest televised interview, the president also praised the enduring friendship with Italy, hailing the depth and strength of bilateral ties. He made it quite clear Algeria holds no grudges with any European partner. Its foreign policy, he stressed, remains rooted in diplomacy, dialogue, and mutual respect. Let's take a listen.
Moi, je l'ai dit, on s'entend très, très, très bien avec l'Europe. Très bien, parce que d'abord, احنا معتبرين نفوسنا جزء لا يتجزأ من البحر الأبيض المتوسط. Nous sommes partie intégrante du bassin méditerranéen. À l'Espagne, il y a eu une période de froid, d'incompréhension. Les choses ont repris normalement. L'ambassadeur est là-bas. Les relations ont repris aussi, bien sûr, le plan commercial.
And turning to Algeria's ties with Washington this time, President of the Republic Abdelmadjid Tebboune highlighted steady progress, citing recent military agreements as a sign of growing cooperation. But he was quick to draw a line, insisting these deals would not come at the expense of Algeria's long-standing partnerships with Russia nor China. Reaffirming a balanced, non-aligned approach, the president stressed that Algeria's foreign policy is about building bridges, not choosing sides.
Je dirais que les relations entre nous et Washington s'améliorent quotidiennement. Quotidiennement. On a signé des accords militaires aussi. L'Africom fait son refueling chez nous, ils viennent, je l'ai reçu, moi, le général anglais, je l'ai reçu 2 fois, 3 fois même. Et cela n'affecte en rien notre amitié avec la Russie, ni notre amitié avec la Chine, ni notre amitié avec d'autres pays, l'Inde, et ainsi de suite. Ça, c'est nos gènes de non-alignés.
Back home, President of the Republic Abdelmadjid Tebboune is doubling down on his pledge to launch a national dialogue, promising it will take shape by year's end or early next year at the latest. Speaking in his regular media appearance, the president emphasized that this dialogue must serve the country as a whole, not individual agendas. A call, he said, for collective purpose, aimed at shaping a future rooted in unity and shared vision.
أنا قلت في آخر 25 بداية 26 نفتح نقاش وطني في المستقبل تاع البلاد. لأن في اعتقادي أن في نهاية 2025 بداية 2026 نكونوا بالتقريب قضينا على المشاكل اللي ورثناها. من ناحية المال ولا من ناحية الميزانية ولا من ناحية التمويل ولا من ناحية كذا ولا من ناحية الترسيم تاع الموظفين من ناحية يعني كل ثغرات أنا نسدوا فيها. نتفرغ الأمور السياسية الجامعة للبلاد. إن شاء الله في قلت نهاية 25 بداية 26 نتمنى باش النقاش يكون مفيد للبلاد مش للأشخاص. هذا هو إن شاء الله.
Moving on to Gaza now, where the death toll keeps rising. The health ministry says 51 more bodies and over 60 injured were brought to hospitals in the last 24 hours. Since March 18th, at least 673 Palestinians have been killed, pushing the overall death toll past 50,000, with over 113,000 wounded. Many remain trapped under rubble, meanwhile. Among the latest massacres, at least 30 killed overnight in Rafah and Khan Yunis, including women and children, as heavy strikes pounded Tel Sultan and Abasan al-Kabira. In Hamad City, 2 more were killed when warplanes hit a tent sheltering civilians. In the Gaza Strip still, the humanitarian toll keeps climbing. The Palestinian Red Crescent says several medics were wounded by Zionist gunfire during a siege in Rafah's Hashashin area before losing contact. Trapped for hours, their fate remains unclear. Civil defense teams sent to help there also went silent. Officials warn relentless shelling now threatens over 50,000 displaced civilians in western Rafah. Civil Defense spokesperson Mahmoud Basal is urging the Red Cross and global agencies to step in, calling for urgent protection for civilians and rescue crews caught in the crossfire in Tel Sultan and Al Briksat.
Israeli occupation forces have been directly besieging the Tel Sultan area in Rafah since dawn on Sunday. Approximately 50,000 residents remain trapped after the Israeli occupation imposed a suffocating blockade on the area. We therefore call on international organizations and the Palestinian Red Crescent to immediately and urgently communicate with the occupation to determine the fate of the civilians there, as well as the fate of service crews in the area, before it's too late.
In Gaza, authorities are sounding the alarm over a looming humanitarian catastrophe. The government media office this time warns the Strip is spiraling deeper into crisis with relentless bombardment, a suffocating siege, and no end in sight. In a statement Sunday, officials urged the international community to act to stop the occupation's crimes, open the crossings, and deliver life-saving aid to more than 2.4 million Palestinians facing unprecedented suffering.
We are witnessing a deepening humanitarian crisis of unparalleled severity, exacerbated by the ongoing suffocating blockade and compounded by the shameful silence of both the international and Arab communities. This inaction emboldens the occupation to persist in its criminal policies without consequence. Now more than ever, the international community must fulfill its legal and moral obligations and take immediate action to halt these atrocities, which the occupation continues to commit with impunity. We also urgently call for the immediate opening of border crossings to facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid and save the lives of innocent civilians facing a slow and agonizing death.
And in southern Gaza, Khan Yunis bore the brunt of Sunday's strikes. An entire building was leveled, reduced to rubble, wiping out an entire Palestinian family who thought they had finally found safe haven. The story with Yassine Riktina.
Somewhere in the heart of Khan Yunis, in a neighborhood already shattered by 15 months of relentless genocide, another deadly strike has brought new pain and devastation. A missile struck the last remaining walls of a ruined building just moments before dawn, catching residents off guard during Suhoor, the pre-dawn meal before Fajr prayer. The blast left several martyrs and many others wounded.
At the end of school meal, shortly before the call to Fajr prayer, the missile fell. Stones rained down on us. The situation was terrifying and sudden. We didn't know what to do.
At Nasser Hospital, the grief was palpable. Families gathered to bid their final farewell to their loved ones, mourning beneath the weight of sorrow, yet clinging to unwavering faith. The cries of pain echo through the halls, accompanied by chants of resilience.
We are not afraid of war. Why should we be afraid? We have God on our side, and anyone with God on their side is never afraid. This is our land. Where do they think they can drive us? We will not leave Gaza. We will die in Gaza, period.
Hunger, war, fighting. There is nothing we can do about it. We are faced with a fait accompli. This is our land, and we must defend it. This is our cause, and we must shoulder its burden.
After a 2-month calm, Gaza is once again engulfed in fire. Since March 18th, the Zionist genocide has resumed with brutal force and merciless intent. Observers say Netanyahu appears resolute in his mission to raise what remains of the enclave and its people, while the international community remains largely passive, issuing appeals for ceasefire that fall on deaf ears. The people of Gaza continue to endure with broken homes, shattered lives, but unbroken spirits.
And in global outcry, public reaction in Spain, voices of solidarity echoed through the streets of San Sebastian. Hundreds took to the streets on Saturday, rallying in support of the Palestinian people and denouncing Zionist crimes. The march, led by the Citizens Initiative, Guernica Palestine, swept through the city center with banners raised high and chants calling for justice and an immediate ceasefire. And elsewhere in the Middle East, tensions continue to simmer along Lebanon's southern border. A Lebanese man was killed and several others injured Sunday after a Zionist airstrike targeted a vehicle in the town of Ait Shab. According to the Lebanese National News Agency, the strike ignited a vehicle in flames, killing one passenger and leaving others wounded. Tensions are also flaring once again across the Red Sea. In Yemen, the Houthi group claimed it has struck the entity's Ben Gurion airport, located in the occupied Jaffa region, using a Palestine II hypersonic ballistic missile. The group also says its forces engaged in fierce, hours-long clashes with the U.S. aircraft carrier Harry S. Truman in the Red Sea, unleashing a barrage of missiles and drones in a direct confrontation. And in a bold move, Iran is raising the stakes in the Gulf, deploying advanced missile systems on the disputed islands of Greater Tunb, Lesser Tunb, and Abu Musa near the Strait of Hormuz. Revolutionary Guard Naval Chief Alireza Tangsiri says the systems can hit targets 600 kilometers away, warning of a swift response to any foolish act. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi called Iran's nuclear status unclear, rejecting direct talks with Washington unless key terms are overhauled. It dismissed the current nuclear deal as unsustainable, stressing Tehran wants sanctions lifted, but is ready for any escalation. And in Morocco, civil society is mobilizing for a national march on April 20th, demanding social justice, greater freedoms, and solidarity with High Atlas earthquake victims. Backed by a broad coalition of groups, the rally also presses for faster reconstruction in Al-Hos and the release of prisoners of conscience. The Civil Coalition for the Moroccan Mountains is urging mass turnout to spotlight lingering hardships and push back against curbs on freedom of expression. In Morocco, still tensions flared Saturday night as security forces cracked down on a peaceful march in El Jadida, opposing normalization with the Zionist entity and denouncing its crimes in Gaza. The protest, led by anti-normalization activists, was forcibly dispersed, triggering widespread condemnation and renewed outrage over curbs on free expression and solidarity with Palestine. In the kingdom still, criticism is mounting over normalization with the Zionist entity. Lawmakers say the move came at the cost of national sovereignty. MP Nabila Munib of the Socialist Party warned that Morocco's soaring debt and dependence on global financial institutions have left the kingdom vulnerable, pressured to normalize or risk regime stability. In our other international news, talks between Washington and Kiev got underway in the Saudi capital Riyadh on Sunday, paving the way for partial ceasefire negotiations in Ukraine set to begin Monday. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rostam Umerov, leading his country's delegation, said the agenda includes proposals to safeguard energy facilities and key infrastructure. And just hours before the Riyadh talks kicked off, U.S. President Donald Trump claimed he's the only person capable of stopping Russian President Vladimir Putin. Speaking to Outkick, Trump described talks with Russia over Ukraine as very rational, once again vowing to end the war and halt the humanitarian suffering that has dragged on since February 2022.
And with that, the world awaits, and I look forward to our personal discussion, which I think begins now, and then we're going to meet our whole team.
And in contrast, the Kremlin confirmed on Sunday that recent phone conversations between President Putin and Trump were held in a climate of trust and constructive dialogue. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov did not rule out the possibility of additional undisclosed contacts between the two leaders in recent months. He added that the discussions on a potential meeting would advance once tangible progress is made in preparations for the Riyadh talks. International news stories making headlines around the globe in the News in Brief with Sofiane Kenturi this time.
On Sunday, Russian airstrikes killed 6 people and injured 10 in several Ukrainian cities, including Kiev. President Zelensky confirmed the deaths of 3 in Kiev, including a child, and 3 in Zaporizhia. The airstrikes involved 150 drones. Ukraine's Air Force reported shooting down 97 out of 174, targeting the country overnight. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry claimed to have destroyed foreign military equipment as Ukrainian forces withdrew from Kursk to Sumy. Senior Sudanese military source confirmed full army control over operations in Khartoum, nearing complete control central areas and key bridges. In Darfur, Sudanese Doctors Network reported 48 civilian deaths and many injuries in an RSF attack on Malha, North Darfur, involving ethnic cleansing. Since Friday, wildfires have been raging in southeastern South Korea, killing at least 4 people and leaving 6 others seriously injured, fanned by strong winds. The fire started about 250 kilometers southeast of Seoul before spreading to other areas in the region. The Algerian national football team is continuing its training camp ahead of Tuesday's World Cup qualifier against Mozambique in Tizi Ouzou. Coach Vladimir Petkovic split the squad into 2 groups. The starters from the Botswana match had special indoor sessions, while the rest of the team trained on the field.
Well, that's the end of our program. Thank you for watching. Until next time, have a good one.